Do learning styles exist? How much can you rely on claims that something will get you fluent? Is there one best way to learn a language? In this episode, I'm sharing how you can master your learning process, so you'll know the answers to these questions once and for all. Reflect on your past learning experiences. The first place you want to start is by looking backwards. What hasn't worked for you in the past? If today isn't day one of your language learning, you've probably already established that there isn't one best way to learn a language. There are multiple ways. And perhaps you have a rough idea out of those multiple ways which ones work best for you. For example, I know that I really want audio courses to work for me better than they do. I just need a transcript or a PDF or something to do with my eyes. I can't just stare at a blank wall. I can't busy myself with chores. I just want them to work better than they do. I know that audio courses are not trash, and I definitely don't diminish them as such. For some people, they'll be the best language resource. And even if you feel at a bit of a crossroads right now and you're really not sure what works and what doesn't, chances are there is something that you can draw upon in your past to help with this. Not necessarily language learning related. For example, if you can drive, what worked when you were learning for your driving theory test? How have you done best in the past with exercise or sports classes? Any time that you've learned anything new, there's something to draw upon there. And you don't need to have everything figured out at the end of this process for this to still be a useful step. It's also really valuable to know what didn't work for you. That's valuable time that you can avoid wasting. For example, I know that when I've learned history in the past, not pardoning the pun, I've always learned better from a video than from a podcast. And even with a podcast, there's different scenarios. Again, it's back to the audio courses, right? I've always learned better when I am on a long bus ride with nothing to distract me versus if I'm milling about doing chores and distracting myself with other things. So even if I'd never tried an audio course for language learning, I might take that experience of learning history and know that perhaps what I need is more video and visual than audio for me. Starting by reflecting on your past learning experiences will give you a really good foundation going forward with this process of mastering your learning process. Be willing to experiment. I often say that I am test subject A when it comes to language learning, and everything that I share about it, I want to try it. I want to know that it works before I just throw it out there as a maybe. There's always something new to learn, always a new app or a new course, and always a new to me language to try those things out with. Lately for me, I've been using travel as a way to explore new approaches for getting to grips with languages fast. And something I've learned from that process, from taking Malayalam lessons in Lithuania to Sinhala lessons in Tamil Nadu, is that it really helps for me to have a bit of the language in advance. If I wait until I arrive, it's just not as good. However, with Malay, I already had that leg up because I've been here before, I have a bit of the language, and I have a decent level in Indonesian. So I figured rather than taking lessons before arriving, I would try lessons on arrival for a language at that kind of level. So for my first few days in the country, I had little short bursts of lessons every day, and it really, really worked for me just to give me that boost in confidence in going out and speaking and using the language day to day. As much as it would be great to carbon copy exactly what worked for you learning language A to language B, it might not be the easiest thing to do because the circumstances might be different. You can take pieces, absolutely, and you can apply those same processes, but the whole thing in itself, that's going to look different. And as soon as we accept this, it becomes easier to accept that we will be experimenting and playing and exploring with a language every single time. Mastering your language process isn't about figuring out one method or system. It's about building a toolbox of methods and systems and ideas that you can take and apply as and when you need. Consider those circumstances. And perhaps your experience with those products has led you to believe that you can't really rely on those claims, as nice as they sound. That's okay. This is a good example of circumstances at play. From all your past experiences and experiments with language learning, you may begin to notice some patterns when it comes to circumstance. And what sucks is that circumstances are often ignored when it comes to asking ourselves what went well and how did we get to learn a language. We don't consider the time that we had available. The circumstances of an experience learning a language are easy to ignore when we consider if it went well or not. We just think, oh, well, the book said I should be fluent by now and I'm not, therefore I must be the problem. No, what were the circumstances? Chances are you were not the problem. Chances are there was something else going on that affected the way that you were able to show up. And all of these things like environment, time of day, mood, energy levels, are really easy to ignore when we just want to focus on the result. We're talking about things that may not be directly related to your language or your process, but they do affect how well you learn. I can give you an example right now. I'm recording this and I can hear a drill outside. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's affecting the sound. People won't be able to hear me, and it's affecting how easily I'm able to talk to you. So when I know that actually I'm gonna still be able to record this video, you're still gonna see this, despite the fact there's a drill outside, despite the circumstance that I can't control, it's much easier to keep going. I'll give you a more language-related example. So for me, I know that I learn much better early in the morning, right? I'm much more alert, I'm paying more attention, I'm more excited to take new stuff in to my brain. Whereas late at night, I just want to chill. So if I'm thinking about when to book a language lesson, I'm 9 times out of 10 going to opt for the morning. If I find a tutor that I think is really, really great, but they don't have any morning availability, that might be enough for me to think, well, I know I'm not going to get the best from them because I'm not going to be able to show up as well as I would like to at that time, like 9 p.m., let's say. So you really have to decide for yourself. Some of this stuff you can control, like deciding when to book a lesson, but some of it, not so much. One factor that you sometimes have control over and sometimes don't is music and sound. Our friend, the drill outside. So I listen to a lot of music, but I know that if I'm trying to get something done, I know that I'm much more productive if I'm listening to some kind of upbeat instrumental, an album I'm very, very familiar with that I can get sunk into, or music with lyrics that are in languages I know nothing about. If I'm trying to listen to Taylor Swift deep cuts and I can understand every word and the tune is taking me away from what I want to focus on, I know that that's not the best for me. So I can control that. I can decide what music I want to listen to, but I can't necessarily control if in the morning, at the time that I know I'm best to study, someone outside decides to drill, right? That is out of my control. Other circumstances to consider are things like whether you work best solo or with a group, whether you prefer having quite a firm structure and plan in place, or if you like more flexibility. These sorts of things can really help to shape what your language process looks like. And this is a really fun bit to dig into as well because it's unique for every single one of us. Don't get hung up on learning styles. When I talk about learning style, I am not talking about putting yourself in a nice neat box and cutting out anything that is outside of that box. Things are much more nuanced than that. But how did we even get here? What even is VARK? VARK stands for visual, auditory, reading/writing. For as long as humans have existed, we've been trying to categorize ourselves. So this isn't really anything new. The idea of learning styles in modern times really links back to Neil Fleming in the 1970s. Ever since then, I'd say like 90% of teachers use this idea of VARK. So when they're planning lessons, they'll be thinking, oh, what have I got in there for visual learners? And what have I got in this lesson plan for auditory learners and reading and the kinesthetics? Is everyone covered, right? Well, actually, the thing is, if you think of yourself as more a visual learner, and I've said already, I'm not huge on audio courses as much as I wish I was, right? I need something to see. So maybe you might think, she's a visual learner. I don't really class myself as that, because if you do, it means that you think everything else doesn't work. But me saying that audio courses don't work best for me isn't me saying audio courses do not work for me, never ever. I still use them. I still have them as part of a bigger plan, and I'm still learning from them. It's just that I need other ways. We all do. Really, most of us are multiple learners rather than just one specific type. And that's the danger. If we think I am a visual learner or I am a kinesthetic learner, whatever it might be, we tend to reject and ignore everything else, and we don't do it. We need a fuller picture. We're learning all of the time. it's a preference, not a style, typically. So with that in mind, how do we master our learning process if there's no neat box to put ourselves in? Just because VARK doesn't hold as much weight as teaching colleges would perhaps like you to believe, it doesn't mean that it belongs in the bin completely. It's still useful to know your preferences. It's still useful to have an idea of what you prefer. The same can be said for personality quizzes, things like the Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. Those sorts of things can be really useful to help you understand perhaps why you are the way you are, why you prefer the things that you do. But it doesn't mean that blinkers on, you reject everything else. So don't get too hung up on these tools being your only compass when you're trying to master your language learning process. And if you know that you're prone to getting quite hung up on them and really hyper-focusing and fixating on them, skip them. Skip the quizzes altogether. You don't need to know your Enneagram to be able to live a wonderful life. It's okay. If you know that that is not necessarily going to be best for you to have that bit of knowledge, skip it. Just focus on everything else in this list. If you do want to master your learning process and you want a bit of support with that, Language Life is the way to go. Mastering your learning process is one of the key things that we work on together inside Language Life. After years of tutoring languages, I decided to focus on the bit that's often missing from lessons. What do you do when the teacher's not there? And so I decided that rather than teaching languages, I was going to teach how to learn them. And that is what we do inside Language Life. Combining the self-study Language Life library with real-life practice opportunities and support directly with moi, you get everything that you need to finally speak with confidence, trust your language gut, and master your learning process. You want to be fluent faster. I've done that bit for you. Let me do that bit so you can focus on learning the language and make the stuff happen that you really want to happen because of your languages. Whether that's connecting deeper with loved ones in their mother tongue, moving abroad for work, study, or simply a better life. Whether it's getting your kids into languages before it just becomes another boring school subject, Language Life makes it happen. If you want to learn more, the link is in the description. And if you have any questions, do feel free to reach out and I'll speak to you very soon.